Tonight's Big Ten game is brought to you by Prairie Farms Ice Cream. Taste the homemade goodness of Prairie Farms. And by Bell Tire. Nobody comes close. Nobody's closer. 62nd consecutive sellouts here in East Lansing. The Breslin Center, the home of the Spartans. The only meeting this year in the regular season between Michigan and Michigan State. So let's check the starting lineups brought to you by Prairie Farms Ice Cream. Taste the homemade goodness of Prairie Farms. See for the Michigan Wolverines, Leon Jones with 2 starts last year, starting 21 times as a sophomore. And you look at the Michigan State Spartans, Anna Gagne, Anderson, Ballinger, Torbert, and Taylor. So 2 rookies in that starting 5 for Tom Izzo.
And Mike, tonight's verdict gets decided on the glass. Michigan State #1 in the Big Ten rebounding the basketball.
Even with the loss of some key players, no surprise there, right, Tim? Last year, a plus 15 on the boards, a plus 9 this year. Even with the loss of Richardson, Randolph, Charlie Bell, Andre Hudson.
Michigan State will start out this game playing a strong majority of man-to-man defense. They're going to try to keep Michigan on the perimeter.
Down to 6 on their first possession. 4 on the shot clock. The runner, Robinson Jr., but there's Leon Jones with the tip.
And an A-plus possession for Michigan. They made Michigan State defend. They showed poise and a mature approach. And the best thing that Michigan can try to do is make this young, impatient Michigan State defense spend some time on that part of the court.
Tommy Amaker in his first year as the head coach after 4 years at Seton Hall.
Offensively, the Spartans run a lot more sets than most people. Michigan starts out man. They're going to throw a little variety in there as well.
Torbert coming off the screen. Misfires at his first shot. Ballinger out of bounds. It stays with Michigan State.
Talked about the rebounding battle. Michigan a little inconsistent. Do you think Tom Izzo's eyes just lit up when he saw that Vermont grabbed 25 offensive rebounds on Saturday versus the Wolverines?
Looking at his eyes, too, and thinking of what he said at the top of the broadcast. You know this is a big game for coaches.
On out-of-bounds plays, the Wolverines will play a zone defense. Spartans very good on their baseline out-of-bounds.
Marcus Taylor dips inside the paint, off the window. No, doesn't go. Knocked out of bounds again. This time it's Michigan basketball. So the Michigan Wolverines return to Chrysler Arena after this game. 3 straight with Wisconsin, Illinois, Penn State. But boy, would they love to get out of here with a victory and snap this skid at 7.
The postseason looms large. Michigan needs this victory to keep their NIT hopes alive. Michigan State probably needs 7 more victories to get to the NCAA league.
Blanchard steps outside the launching pad, and Blanchard with the 3. It's now 5-0 Maize and Blue.
Tommy Amaker told me his #1 goal is to play 5 alive. First 5 minutes, his team has to stay composed and stay close.
What about the tempo of the ball game? I know you were talking with Coach Amaker before the teams actually went out to shoot around tonight.
You know, it's kind of interesting because Michigan is not a gritty team. They play better in a full-court game, but I'd be worried trying to run against this Spartan team, especially in the Breslin Center.
Anderson off-balance shot. Blanchard pulls it down for the Wolverines. Most points Tom Izzo's Spartan team ever scored was 114 against Michigan. Right now, Michigan State down by 5. Will it be 7? Rejection by Anna Gagne as Blanchard tried to go in with his second shot of the night.
Interesting matchup. Anna Gagne, a power guy, versus Lavelle Blanchard, a small power forward. Lavelle's going to try to pull him out on the perimeter.
Chris Young down to the post for Michigan, feeling a little bit under the weather. So he thinks it's the flu. He just feels really burnt out. Adam Groniger's roommate had it for about a week as Leon Jones misfires from deep in the corner.
And one reason the Spartans have not been able to run as much this year, you saw it right there. They need to rebound with their guards.
Ballinger with the spin, and the Spartans are on the board.
Adam Ballinger.
I'll tell you, Tim, this Spartan team, they may have lost a lot of players, but Ballinger is a key element to this Michigan State offense.
Fun matchup on the wing. Anderson, Robinson. Robinson the best scorer. Anderson the top defender.
Catch and shoot very quickly. Blanchard doesn't find the mark this time in Michigan State now. Chance to cut it to one. Or tie with the three. Offensive rebound, the rookie Anderson, and he puts it back in.
Now, right there is the biggest matchup problem, the biggest mismatch in this game. State dominant on the offensive glass.
Young takes it hard to the hole, and Chris Young scores his first bucket, his 106th consecutive game for a Michigan Wolverine. It's a long stretch. It's 46 consecutive starts wearing the maize and blue. Ballinger outside this time. Knock it down. That's a three for Ballinger. He has 5.
What a tough cover. I really like what Ballinger brings. He does the muscle stuff inside, but anytime your power forward can make jumpers, it really helps spread out the defense.
When he went down with the ankle injury, the Michigan State offense really sputtered. They failed to score 70 points in the 4 games that he missed. There's a push down low, and it goes against Ballinger, against Chris Young. So that's his first on Ballinger. We're going to take a break here from the Breslin Center in East Lansing, Michigan. The numbers: Michigan, Michigan State, deadlock at 7.
Welcome back to the Breslin Center. The foundation of the Michigan offensive attack go to Chris Young. Now, if you look at the scouting report, it always says Young goes to his right hand to the middle. Here you see a little diversity from his package. He goes up strong, converts, and that's a beautiful thing for Michigan. Now, Tom Izzo made a great point. He said that the thing he likes the most about Chris Young is how he's improved every single year at Michigan. And now he compares him to Robert Archibald, Illinois, as the top 2 big men in the entire conference.
That's good company. You look at the numbers over the years for Chris Young, and as a matter of fact, the operative word being improved, Chris Young is the most improved player the last 2 years at Michigan.
Well, how about this? If you ask me who Michigan's most valuable player is, I say it's Chris Young. If he goes down with an injury or can't play, Michigan does not win a game the rest of the season. And a little mix-up on defense. The Spartans in 6 possessions have played 2 man-to-man and 4 zone.
Michigan opened up a 5-0 lead. Michigan State hitting 3 of the last 4 shots, are tied at 7-7. Robinson Jr. stop and pops from the baseline. His first bucket. Spartans very quickly. Returning down to the other side. Anderson takes it in, and he's fouled. So Anderson will be going to the line. Freshman out of Minneapolis. And another rookie, Chris Hill, from Indianapolis. So checking in, Tolbert goes out. The foul on Leon Jones, his first.
Clearly, Michigan State lacks the depth. You saw them with a concerted effort to try to run in transition there. I think that's a great idea. In a lot of cases, it's almost less tiring to play in transition rather than banging in a half-court game.
Some of the Izzo and the booing, they thought that was a shooting foul. Anderson actually thought it was a shooting foul, and Hill almost loses the rock.
I thought it was a shooting foul.
We'll put you back in the Izzo then, I guess.
There's only one guy in the whole building that didn't think it was a shooting foul.
Johnny Gray, Phil Bolt, and Terry Anderson wearing the striped shirts, calling the game play. And there's a foul on top by Chris Young. Well, that's a costly one when the big guy gets it way far away from the basket like that.
Ballinger and Young must stay out of foul trouble. Good news for Michigan State. They have Ballinger, Andreas, and Anagagne for Michigan. After Chris Young, they've got nobody. So it would be a very good idea for Michigan State to go right at Chris.
Chuck Bailey just checked in for Tommy Amaker, and Blanchard goes out. That's something you didn't see that much last year. Blanchard exiting the game this early. They're still looking for that right chemistry. They come in 8-9, 3-4 in the Big Ten. Outside shot, bring it up.
Tom Izzo calls this Spartan squad the best shooting team that he has ever had in East Lansing.
That's a great point you bring up. He says if Randolph and Richardson were still on this team, this might be his best team. And we talked about this. You know, you look at the Mo Pete, Charlie Bell, Mateen Cleaves. That's a pretty strong statement.
I think I take the Mo Pete, Mateen Cleaves team because their guards were far superior. They're veterans, but boy, it really does sell out. You know who they miss more than anybody? It's Zach Randolph. You know, JR's having a great season, but boy, to have that post game would be stellar.
Avery Queen took down the lane with 3 on the clock. Offensive rebound. Young doesn't go. Ballinger clears for Michigan State. And the Wolverines had a couple of opportunities that time. Andreas, this time he's fouled. And this time Michigan State will be on the line.
It's a very important call for Michigan. Chris Young could have had his second foul and been sitting. Instead, it's Leon Jones. But I really like Jason's aggressiveness getting inside. Shoot around today. Coach Izzo told us that the message he has for Andreas is to try to go out there and be a Rambo player. Get out there, throw your body around, try to bring the energy.
Kind of like a Timbo Gracchus with a larger frame. Tom Izzo. 7th year, already 3 National Coach of the Year honors. Well, that's impressive.
Now, for a team that only has 7 scholarship players, they certainly have the mass substitution pattern going.
So the Spartans up by 3 now, 12-9 after Michigan took a 5-0 lead. The Spartans on a 12-4 run. You know, this Breslin crowd, considering this is Michigan State, I've been here, Tim, when it's actually been louder. I thought the crowd would try to take the Mason Blue out of the game early, but they're hopping up and down. They're making noise, but I definitely have heard this building rock. Down to 3. Ingerson. It's rejected, goes out of bounds. And we're coming back with Michigan State basketball.
Very unusual in a rivalry game. Can you imagine? That's the first turnover we've seen.
Yeah, Michigan comes in only averaging about 14 turnovers, which is pretty impressive. Michigan State, they're at about 15, but a couple of weeks ago I was in town for a Purdue game. They were around 17 turnovers a game. In Big Ten play, actually 14 turnovers a game for Michigan State.
Interesting matchup here. Bernard Robinson is 6'7". He's long. He's a great defender. Marcus Taylor is the foundation of Michigan State's offense. If he's not scoring, you look at the rest of the squad, you say, who is going to score?
That's a good point, especially if Marcus Taylor's got to find the guy that's going to score too. Has to get him the rock.
And speaking of scoring, with Chris Young and Bernard Robinson on the bench, Dominic Ingerson must get aggressive looking for his shot.
Last foul on Torbert. His first, second team foul for Michigan State. Michigan with 4 team fouls at the 12:39 mark, 12:40. There's a turnover. Michigan State will try to capitalize and build on a 12-9 lead. Top of the broadcast, Tim, we talked about the storied traditions both these schools have. And you look at the 7-game winning streak. Of course, it's all cyclical. Tom Izzo lost his first 5 against Michigan. But the fact that the average score over the last 4 or 5 games is really astronomical. Michigan would get beat that badly.
Very unusual, but it shows you how good the Spartans have been at both ends of the court.
Andreas knocks down a couple of free throws and then a field goal from the corner. He has 4. Michigan State up 14 now.
Mike, I know it's early, but this is a very big possession for Michigan because the crowd is really starting to have fun out there. Michigan must stay in touch early.
Tommy Amaker jumping off the bench, telling his players to calm down, just play their game. Some miscommunication at the top of the key, and they knock it out of bounds. And it's Michigan State basketball again.
All right, little FYI. Michigan State has the opportunity now to go to the basket with strength. Michigan does not have shot blocking in the lineup, and Michigan State has to try to keep the lead right now with Marcus Taylor on the bench.
Spartans up 7-0 as far as bench scoring here tonight. Michigan State's averaging about 18, 19 points a game off the bench.
Wolverines go zone, 2-3 variety.
Gagne yet to shoot here tonight with the spin and the hook. It goes in. Big Al Gagne's first bucket. Blanchard off the dribble. There's an air ball. In transition, Torber. Gagne strong for the rebound. He's fouled, and Gagne is going to the strike. You know, I think you hit the nail on the head, Tim. You know, a game of basketball is a game of runs by both teams, but that home crowd can certainly take you out of it.
You know, Tommy Amaker today said that his biggest complaint from Lavelle Blanchard is that the kid just does not block out. He goes and he follows and he grabs rebounds. But in a game versus a man of this size, you've got to put a body on him. I know he's outweighed by about 45 pounds. Anna Gagne is a very strong offensive rebounder. Kind of interesting, Anna Gagne does not put up big rebounding numbers. He's very adequate, almost mediocre on the defensive boards. You put him on the offensive end, the guy's a stud in there.
Yeah, no doubt he is a workhorse. And they say he's worked extremely hard over the summer on his offensive game. Knocks down both free throws. 71% shooter, Jason Andreas stepping outside, knocking down one for Tom Izzo. 18-9, Michigan State. Tom Izzo already with a national championship, and this floor from Indianapolis brought back to East Lansing. Michigan State purchasing the floor, redoing it, of course, and this is the championship floor. And Tim, I may point out that the wood from this floor is actually from the Upper Peninsula.
Well, isn't that great?
Not far from Tom Izzo's homeland.
And there's the throwback uniforms, the uniforms that they wore during their championship year. Would you think that Tom Izzo would be pleased at this point to have a 9-point lead with Marcus Taylor not having scored?
Boy, that's a great point. Marcus Taylor, I don't think he's taken more than one shot either. 22-13. Avery Queen. Good ball movement by Michigan. Working that clock, though, but time and time again, I think they've milked that shot clock a little bit too close to the buzzer for Tommy Amaker.
Well, exactly. Right now, Michigan State knows a shot is coming up soon, if at all.
Down to 4 again. 3. Finally, Bailey goes up, and it's knocked out of bounds.
You see, if you run the shot clock too far down, the defenders look at the other end. They see that there's less than 5 seconds. They dig in, and you're not going to get a good shot. It's going to be contested.
They'll have 2 seconds on the clock, and Donnie Gray goes over and talks to Alan Anderson. He and Bernard Robinson Jr. doing some pushing and shoving in the paint. Michigan hasn't scored in 3.5 minutes now. Well, they got the shot off. Robinson Jr. says, I was fouled, but Michigan State comes away with it.
I'm not sure we've seen Michigan with a wide open, uncontested shot so far.
No, except for maybe the Lavelle Blanchard 3, and that was early in the game. Tom
Izzo, his goal on offense and defense is to try to get 80% of the defense to contest shots, and they've done a pretty solid job of that so far.
Well, Robinson Jr. on the Marcus Taylor. Taylor called for the 5-second violation. To get information on your favorite Big Ten team, go online at www.big10.org for all the basketball and conference news from around the Big Ten. And a lot of news to be had this year, I'll tell you that. I mean, Illinois, the supposedly cream of the crop in the league now with 4 losses after going down in Columbus to Jim O'Brien's Buckeyes yesterday. Robinson. You're right. No one getting clean looks. Lavelle Blanchard came into the game 31 points shy of reaching Ricky Green. Blanchard's second bucket. He has 5.
A lot of zone defense being played in this game.
Gagne with some authority. He has 6, and the Spartans up 24-15.
You see, this is a half-court game. Michigan is kind of a finesse team. They lack the tough, physical, gritty players, and that's been the difference so far.
Green misfires his second shot. Torbert clears, and Michigan State wants to run this time. Taylor partially deflected and taken by Taylor. Big time play by Marcus Taylor. His first bucket. Robinson Jr. did a great job defensively, Tim, and Taylor just took the ball back.
Versus the unsettled defense. Keep your eye on Anaganye. On the dribble drive, he takes the step in, and at some point, defensively, you've got to make a stand and say, we're not going to get dunked on. Notice here, Taylor in transition, goes up, nice defense, but where is the toughness? Bernard Robinson is not a physical player. Ball was just taken away from him, and those are just hustle plays.
And most people, when you say toughness, the first thing that pops into their mind would be a physical thing, but you're talking mostly mental here, right? Or is it 50-50?
I think it's 50-50. That's a good estimate. And I was talking to one of the Michigan assistant coaches, and I said, guys, who's going to provide the toughness for your team tonight? They kind of looked at each other and said, I think the toughness for our team hasn't yet arrived in Ann Arbor. He's still playing high school basketball somewhere.
Avery Queen trying to get some instant offense. As Ernie Harwell used to say, 26-15. Michigan, down to Michigan State. Bailey Anderson, a couple of freshmen for the Wolverines on the floor, neither with any good looks. Again, under 10 on the shot clock as Queen looks for an open man. Robinson explodes, and he draws the foul. And it's going to put them in the bonus situation.
Bernard Robinson with pretty solid recognition there for the game. I was saying, tell me a little bit about what you're planning tonight. And he said, well, first of all, Coach Amaker told me I'm a very good foul shooter, so I've got to try to find ways to get to the line. And he said that works extra special in this game because State doesn't have the depth. They only have 7 scholarship players, so I might be able to get some of those guys in foul trouble.
And he is a slasher as far as definitions of players, so he probably should be getting to the strike more. 88% shooter, and he misfires. I didn't even jinx him that time.
Now, that wasn't on you. Don't be too hard on yourself.
88% though, doesn't get much better than that. Under 5 minutes now as we approach the 4.5-minute mark in the first half from East Lansing. Well, Torbert trying to sneak in the back door. And Michigan doing a good job of shutting down the screen.
Spartans ran their 1-4 look. A lot like Princeton trying to get the backdoor cut. Marcus Taylor, their premier offensive player in the game. Bo Gracchus always gives the effort on the defensive end of the court. Well, they missed Andreas.
Spartans down to 3 now, the shot clock, and Torbert will get an open look. And he misfires. Boy, in high school, it's rare that he wouldn't knock down that shot. Ingerson takes it out a little bit deeper to get the open look, but it doesn't go down.
I can't call that a good shot. Need a little patience on that trip.
Torbert still hang time. Nice off touch by Torbert, his second bucket.
Now, Michigan is on the verge of getting blown out of this game. This is a trip that you need the mature approach. You need to share the ball, try to get somebody else a shot. This Spartan defense is very strong.
Wolverines with 1 bucket in the last 7 minutes. Ingerson off the dribble. Nice move by the rookie. Ingerson is snapping the drought with the drive on the baseline, 28-17, so it's back within 9. Timeout on the floor here from East Lansing, Michigan. Kelvin Torbert, the National Player of the Year. His second bucket, Spartans on top of the Mason Blue, 28-17.
Welcome back to the Breslin Center. Michigan State flexing their muscles, and one of the guys that is big in Michigan lore It's Mr. Rudy Tomjanovich, and he has some real good thoughts on the significance of the Michigan-Michigan State rivalry. Is it as important as it ever was?
Probably not as much as it used to, because I've got people from Michigan State on my staff, and back in the old days, I wouldn't even be close to one of those son of a guns.
That says a lot in itself right there.
One of his assistant coaches, Jim Boylan, was actually a Michigan State Spartan coach. So Rudy's growing up. He's learned to accept.
Michigan full court press now. He'll try to break it. Wisely, Andreas pulls it out. Boy, Rudy T, one of two players in Michigan history to score over 1,000 points and grab 1,000 rebounds. Those are pretty impressive numbers, especially the 1,000 rebounds. Anagani shot down that time. Anagani with 8 points. He leads Michigan State.
No surprise, Michigan State, #1 in the Big Ten on the glass. They're pounding Michigan with their size.
Well, not too many teams over the years. As a matter of fact, since Tom Izzo took over this basketball team, 86% of the times they've out-rebounded the opposition. Boy, Michigan, classic case of not getting a good look at the rim that time. And the foul will go against Bernard Robinson Jr.
Aloysius Anaganye. It's very important that he gets involved offensively. The coaching staff is having him shoot 100 jump hooks every single day. That's his second one that he's made. And so far, with his help, the battle on the board so far, it's been looking like varsity versus JV.
That's a good shot for him, Tim, because the last couple of games I've covered Michigan State. Once he turns that body in the paint, not too many people can stop the big guy.
Now, and talking to Michigan's coaches earlier this week, I said, well, who are you most worried about? It wasn't Torbert, it wasn't Taylor. They said they feared Anaganye because he offered something that would be very difficult to stop. If he scores, they've got the post and the perimeter attack.
9 points for Anaganye, largest lead for Michigan State now at 31-17. Anaganye with a chance to become the first in double figures, and he does. Michigan State, the #1 shooting free throw team in the Big Ten. Michigan, #2.
I think the Wolverines miss Chris Young at both ends of the court.
Oh, definitely. Great points. Baylor, the freshman, with an air ball. And Groninger's wide open in the corner. Groniger, a perimeter shooter. Not too many touches here so far on this possession. Bailey. It's a big-time move that time for the 6'7" freshman.
Oh, yeah, that was a manly effort. You know, Tom Izzo hates it when his team gets dunked on in half court. That's unacceptable if you play for Michigan State.
Well, there's a reach. Out on top, Robinson Jr., that's going to be 3 on him.
Michigan State does not block a lot of shots, but they play position defense. Here's the analogy. The great Piston Joe Dumars, one of my favorite defenders, seldom did he ever block a shot, almost never stealed the ball. However, he always played position defense and no one ever drove by him. That's exactly how this Michigan State team plays.
Can't get by him. You're not going to get the bucket. It's Anderson. Has 5 now. Anderson named the surprise player in the summer of 2000 by the Sporting News at the Nike camp. Chris Young. There's the numbers on Young. 2 fouls, but again, feeling under the weather before the game started tonight. Michigan really doesn't have anybody to come in and fill his shoes, do they?
They do not. They're an undersized, guard-driven team with Chris Young on the bench. That's why I think that he's their most valuable player. When he's off the court, they falter.
Down to 1:19 to go in the first half here from East Lansing. Blanchard for 5 points. Hasn't taken a shot in a while. Looking inside. Baylor forced the issue, and Michigan State comes up with a basketball. Boy, Tom Izzo has to be pleased with the way his team is playing defense right now, Tim.
That's no surprise, though. This is what they do. They're a defense-oriented team. They rebound. And when you defend and rebound, you're a match for anybody.
Still plenty of basketball to be played. 61 seconds in this half, of course, and then 20 more minutes, but 34-19. I came in thinking that you're a 7-game skid for Michigan. Michigan State's lost a lot. They're not the same team they were a year ago, or the last 4 years for that matter. I thought this was a perfect opportunity for Michigan to come in and take one away from Michigan State.
But the word that I used, as you see the Spartan fans in the is zone, they've got something going on called the whiteout. Everybody's wearing white tonight. I think that from what I've heard from the weather reports, that the Detroit metro area is in support of Michigan State with a little whiteout as well.
Hopefully that one holds off until you and I both get out.
But Mike, I use the word traumatized. I believe that the Michigan upperclassmen that have been beaten by an average of 25 points, in a way you tell yourself, yeah, I'm going to come out there, I've got something for these Spartans. But once you get out there, all the bad memories start coming out, and at a certain time you almost submit to what is inevitably going to come.
That's a great point. But one I actually find surprising is Marcus Taylor misfires, and Michigan barely knocks it out from Andreas. I would think players, of the stature of LaBelle Blanchard, the runner-up for Mr. Basketball in the state of Michigan senior year, he's already a 1,000-point scorer. Guys like that, Bernard Robinson Jr., Chris Young, they say, okay, before we get out of here, we are going to beat those Spartans, and we're going to beat them at Michigan State. Of course, this year, this is their only opportunity.
Very interesting move, Mike. Chris Young comes into the game with 42 seconds to go. You'd say, well, they're on offense, but there's a possession in store for Michigan State, and Michigan is going to try to get him the ball. You might think that Michigan State may try to take a charge. Let's keep an eye.
And does Michigan State go right at Chris Young on the other side?
Without question, you have to. This is a big gamble. I'm not sure if it's worth it.
There's Blanchard, puts it on the floor, almost loses it this time.
But look at the swarm.
Browniger, he misfires. Final 20 seconds now. Michigan State last shot, 34-19.
The best Michigan State possession, I don't care if they score or not, would be to go right at Chris Young. He's not going to cover anybody on this possession.
Final 2 seconds. Taylor knocks it down. A huge three for Marcus Taylor at the buzzer. The last 9 minutes and 15 seconds, Spartans have outscored the Maize and Blue 19-6. Tim, your thoughts before we head for halftime?
Sort of what I thought would happen. I think that Michigan has a fragile psyche. They came out with effort, but after Michigan State started nailing some shots, they started to control the offensive glass. Michigan did not have the physical personnel to deal with the Spartans.
Big Al Anaganye, 10 points and 4 rebounds for the junior from Southfield. It's halftime at Michigan State. Back in East Lansing, the second half just underway seconds ago. Spartans with their first possession of the second half. Torbert, Marcus Taylor knocked down that huge three right at the buzzer to end the first half. Misfires here to open up the second. Interesting, Tim, to see how the Maize and Blue responds after the halftime talk from Tommy Amaker.
Tommy comes across as a quiet, mild-mannered gentleman. I'm sure that there were a few unkind words sent his players' way. I don't question their effort. I think they played hard. There are just some flaws in the makeup of their roster. You get the sense from talking to him that Tommy really likes his players. He thinks they're gentlemen. They work hard for him, but he just thinks that there's some changes that need to be made in the makeup of his personnel.
Well, Tommy Amaker, the great point guard at Duke, of course, didn't waste any time to pull Avery Queen. He's talking to him over there as Mike Gottfredson came in at the 19-19 mark. Look at the numbers after the first 20 minutes and the shooting percentage. Michigan 28%. Michigan State 52%.
Doesn't that say it all right there?
Alley-oop, and Blanchard did a good job of taking Torbert out of the play that time.
Set play. Before the game, I thought for Michigan to have a chance that Blanchard and Robinson needed to combine for like 35 or maybe 40 points. Combined, they were only 3 for 12 from the field.
As a team, Michigan 1 for 9 from three-point territory. Tommy Izzo off the bench. Not happy with the call. Anna Gagne commits the foul, and it's going to put the Wolverines on the line. Big guy, Chris Young, 6 points in the first half for Young, 2 fouls. He watched down the stretch as Michigan scored just 6 points in the last 9 minutes and 15 seconds.
Chris Young is a guy that Big Ten coaches rave about. All 11 coaches say that I'd like a kid like that on my team. He gets better. He works hard. He follows his scouting report. He's done a nice job throughout his career.
Yeah, you never see Young out there not giving 110% effort. There's no doubt about that. And Gottfriedson almost picks the pocket, but Anderson gets the open look on the baseline. Boy, Torbert can fly, but it's Robinson with the rebound. And Young with the bucket, the foul, chance for a three-point play. So the Mason Blue playing with a spark here early on in the second half.
Best chance for scoring for Michigan. How do you find easy points versus this Michigan State lockdown defense? Well, it's in transition, and Chris Young beat Anna Gagne and Ballinger down the court. And as they go to the other end of the court, Coach Tom Izzo's down there, and he may have a couple things to say about it. Those are Michigan's first transition points in this entire game.
And Young, an 81% shooter in double figures now with 10, and it's 37-23. Torbert, open look, knocks it down. Kelvin Torbert is pretty strong with that shot. He's averaging 16 the last 3 games. He has 6 tonight. That may be his best move, just the mid-range jump shot on the baseline.
Well, everybody loves the dunks, but nobody's going to let him get to the rim.
And speaking of dunks, Young comes back and answers with a slam. 12 points now for Young.
Looks like zone is Michigan's best defense in this game. Protects Chris Young, who has foul trouble. They're going to sag, try to contest jump shots. And, you know, with the big lead, Michigan State is wise. Just take their time. Be very patient on offense.
Inside of Anna Gagne. Marcus Taylor, who had 20 against Iowa to put him over the 500 mark, and dreams out. The Ballinger's there for the offensive stick back. 7 for Ballinger. Leon Jones takes it to the hole. He's rejected by Anna Gagne. Taylor pulls up, knocks it down. Marcus Taylor with 7. Michigan State up now, 43-25. Time out on the floor. The Izzo is rocking here in East Lansing.
Michigan State is dominating the offensive glass, and here's an absurd number for you. They've missed 14 field goals. 7 of those they've got themselves and put back in the basket. Tom Izzo's goal on the offensive glass is to retrieve 50% of their missed shots, and in my estimation, they may be America's best offensive rebounding team.
And Coach Izzo was even saying that 50% he knows he's asking a lot.
It's amazing, Mike, and that's why they're efficient on offense, because even if they take a shot and miss, they're going to go get it, and that's why it's important for them to keep their turnovers down. My gosh, just get a shot up there, you'll get it half the time.
I found it interesting this afternoon. He defined why Michigan State's such a great rebounding club. When I grew up, I always thought it was just heart and hard work and going after the ball, but there's a lot more to it, apparently, as Blanchard knocks down his first shot in the second half. Blanchard averaging 15. He's got 7 here tonight. Ballinger, second time tonight. He comes up with a 3 ball, puts him in double figures with 10.
Does Ballinger remind you of A.J. Granger at all?
Especially when he releases it on the perimeter. For A.J. loved that deep corner shot. Oh, Blanchard's coming alive now. That's a 3 for LaVell Blanchard, 10 for him. As high as a Michigan Wolverine, 30 against Iowa last year. Well, Blanchard, you look at the numbers he's put up. Third straight year he's leading his team in scoring and rebounding. Ballinger again outside. This time rattles out. Gottfriedson last touched the basketball, and it's going to stay with Michigan State. Adam Ballinger feeling it. It's rare you see a big guy step outside of the launching pad on 2 straight possessions. This time he knocks it down. Back inside the Breslin Center, 16-point game now. Michigan State up 46-30. And Tim, the Wolverines came out in the second half with a purpose. They had an extra bounce in their step, but every time they score, Michigan State answers.
Yeah, Michigan State looks fresh, and some of that may be the fact that they've had 8 days to prepare. Adam Ballinger told me that a strong emphasis of their practice this week was spent on the defensive end, especially rebounding, and it showed.
You got to wonder if you come into a place like East Lansing with the reputation Michigan State has, a 37-19 deficit at halftime isn't too large a hole to climb out of. It's never easy climbing out of a hole, no matter where you are.
I can lay it out this simple. The only way Michigan makes a comeback is in transition, and you get the sense that they're not going to let Michigan run. Leon Jones came up a little gimpy on his right ankle. As a senior, you know he's going to want to stay in this game.
Well, Chris Young just picked up his 3rd foul at the 15:51 mark of the second half.
At this point, you might as well leave him in.
And Gagne walking with the basketball. Donnie Gray was all over that one. Good concept, just didn't pull off the execution. So Gottfriedson brings it up slowly for Michigan. There's some frustration for a guy like Tommy Amaker, especially when the ball lands in his lap.
It's a guy that knows what to do with the basketball. Michigan in 2-3 zone. I'm sure that Michigan point guards are going to have a tough time playing for Tommy Amaker. Kind of like John Chaney at Temple. He has a reputation of being very difficult to play for because he has such high expectations for the position. I asked Avery Queen, I said, how is it playing for him? He said, boy, sometimes I think he's picking on me, but I respect him, and I know he knows how to play this position.
Marcus Taylor lined up with another 3, and he goes into double figures thanks to the trifecta. And Amaker, of course, a 4-year starter for Mike Krzyzewski at Duke at the point. Blanchard. He comes back with a 3. So Blanchard, his last couple of shots have been 3 balls. He has 13.
Tom Izzo is ready to have a fit. Lavelle Blanchard is going to score 2 ways, on open jump shots and offensive rebounds. That is it. And he doesn't want anybody leaving him alone on the perimeter.
Well, Blanchard, the number 3 scorer in the Big Ten last year, was a sophomore after the co-Big Ten freshman of the year. Already shared with Brian Cook at Illinois. Spartans down to 4. Chris Hill rings it up. His second bucket, both have been 3s.
Sugar Hill.
Largest lead in the ball game now, 52-33.
Doesn't he have a beautiful release on his shot?
Talk with Coach Izzo about rookies and playing a lot of freshmen, and he's played a lot over the years. He says he's probably ahead of the learning curve as far as freshmen. So Blanchard with the spin, they're trying to kick it down to Young, and the foul call against Michigan State.
You know, the Big Ten does not have an all-freshman team, but if they did, one guy that would be a lock is Chris Hill. And as his career continues to grow, a player that Tom Izzo envisions him becoming, Sean Respert, catch-and-shoot guy. And look at Tom, why are you so upset? Your team just made the bucket. Enjoy it.
I'm going to get back in transition defense. Talking about Respert, Chris Hill may catch Sean Respert as far as rookies shooting the 3. Nice move inside by Bernard Robinson Jr. His second bucket of the ball game, and there's the Spartans trying to score in transition, but Michigan called for the foul.
Well, that's a hard foul. How's that for some expert analysis?
Well, just in case you were wondering, I was joking before. Of course, transition defense, there would be no such thing if after a made basket. Ouch. I guess you're sitting at home and you caught that one. So he'll go into the line, the 6'3" freshman out of Lawrence North, quite the high school quarterback during his high school days, setting single-season records for yards passing and 38 touchdowns his senior year.
He was actually a drop-back passer. When I watch his footwork, I think he could be a pretty good option quarterback as well. And I think that goes into Tom Izzo's recruiting. He loves the football players because of the toughness. He just brought Aaron Anderson off the football team to play on the scout team. Kelvin Torbert, a linebacker / wide receiver in high school. Anderson was also a quarterback. I guess Anderson was a wide receiver.
Up in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing, Kelvin Torbert definitely fits the mold of a linebacker. No doubt about that. Every Queen. There's a reach. And Michigan State trying to get it inside to Lavelle Blanchard, and it's going to be Alan Anderson with the foul. It's going to be 2 on him. And the 5th already on Michigan State.
The defense so far, Mike, on Bernard Robinson has been a thing to enjoy if you're a Spartan fan. Bo Gracchus gets the job right now, but Bernard seems frustrated. Very few open looks. His game is ball to rim. So far, he hasn't visited the rim once.
Blanchard catch and shoot. Quick release doesn't go down this time for Lavelle Blanchard. Michigan State now with a chance to build. Up 19. It's been the largest lead in the ball game. Spartans getting ready to hit the road. They go to Illinois, Northwestern, then return home to meet the Buckeyes. What a story Ohio State's been, Tim. Picked to finish 7th or 8th in the Big Ten. They're sitting there at 7-1. Football play that time. Marcus Taylor fires it over to the corner, and I wasn't sure where he was going, but Chris Hill was right there. It was almost like a timing pattern. If it goes out of bounds, it's going to be Michigan basketball.
One of the things that I want you to watch when Michigan brings the ball up court, when they get into a half-court set, they do 2 things pretty well. They're athletic in transition, and they hustle. But in the half-court set, they do not dribble drive at all. Bernard Robinson's the only guy that has the ability to put the ball on the floor and get to the rim. And the second thing is they don't have post scoring. It kind of eliminates your options. It makes you easy to cover if you can't drive and you can't post it.
Speaking of driving, Robinson, the last couple of possessions, he's tried to dip inside the paint, slash down inside, but Michigan State's done a good job of taking that away.
The one thing that you can get versus the Spartans, mid-range game. They extend the defense, and then they also protect the hole.
Entry pass to Young, a little bit too strong, but Blanchard's there for the stick-back jam, and Blanchard now suddenly has 15 points, 10 in the second half.
Yeah, that's Blanchard's game. He does 2 things. He shoots the jump shot, and he hits the offensive glass, and that's what he's done this half.
And he does both things very well.
Very well.
Taylor with the crossover. Robinson with the foul. It's going to be 4 on Bernard Robinson Jr., who comes in averaging about 12 points a game, and right now he has 4. A bucket in each half. Timeouts on the floor. Lavelle Blanchard, 10 second-half points as Michigan tries to get back in the game.
In this bitter rivalry, Wolverines and Spartans are not supposed to get along, right? Well, you know, the 2 Toms, the 2 coaches get along very well. In the November issue of the Northwest Airline magazine, the 2 cover boys, Michigan State and Michigan, Izzo and Amaker, get along very well. The two met back in the days at Country Day High School recruiting Chris Webber. And then it continued when they went after Shane Battier. Amaker was at Duke. Tom Izzo had just taken the job here at Michigan State, and they got along very well. As a matter of fact, earlier this year, after Michigan lost at Bowling Green, Tom Izzo called him, and they had a long talk trying to console Amaker.
Shane Battier told me last spring that, as a matter of fact, the event I worked with you, the McDonald's Slam Jam, went over to Durham before the Final Four and talked to Battier, and he said that Michigan State was his second choice, but he always wanted to be a Dookie.
Looking back on his career, it was probably a very good decision. You can't do much better than national championships and National Player of the Year.
Foul on Blanchard. That's 2 on him. 4 now. Team fouls on Michigan in the second half.
Battier and Jason Richardson, 2 of the young players in the NBA that will be on the all-rookie team. JR averaging about 11 or 12 points a game for the Warriors.
And Gagne. And Anderson. Box out. Where did he come from? It's exactly the look that Tommy Amaker has on his face right now. Just sometimes it just comes down to fundamental basketball.
Offensive rebounds have broke Michigan's back. Look on the weak side. There's nobody in block-out position. Lavelle Blanchard has to stay on the weak side, keep his position, and put a body on Anderson. You know, jumping up underneath the rim is not going to help your team defensively.
Anderson drives it down. He has 8, and it's 56-37. Anderson picked up his 3rd foul. And Lavelle Blanchard, who's had a big second half for the Maize and Blue, at the line.
Couple of very good free throw shooting teams, Michigan State and Michigan, ranked 1 and 2, and Michigan takes it out underneath.
And I stand corrected. Michigan State, that's only their 6th team foul. 1 away from the bonus.
See if Michigan can try to run something for Blanchard. He's the only guy able to get his shot off.
It was there, but it rims out, and Marcus Taylor clears for Michigan State. Looking inside, Blanchard kicking it into 6th gear on the defensive end.
They have numbers. It's a 5-on-3.
Blanchard had the open look, gives it up to Groniger. Groniger, usually a great outside shooter, and Leon Jones fights for the offensive rebound. He's going to get 3 opportunities. No, there's the jump ball signal. Possession arrow pointing towards. Well, it was pointing towards Michigan State, but now they look like Donnie Gray said jump ball.
Donnie Gray had a differing opinion. You know, it was definitely hand-on ball, which would cause the jump ball. Here he gets it, goes up strong, misses the shot, stays with it. Now, watch at the end of the play. A lot of contact right there. I think they might have called the contact with the body. I talk about Kelvin Torbert's vertical jump. Tom Izzo gets off the floor a little bit as well.
Well, Donnie Gray called for the jump, and Phil Bova had his head stuck in the huddle. I think it was Terry Anderson that actually called the foul. So Leon Jones, 56% free throw shooter this year, will go to the line. Gagne, his left ankle, might have been injured on the play as Phil Bova.
Rebounding has been a problem. Injuries have been a problem for Michigan State. They have lost Adam Wolf, who we're sure is watching tonight. He's recovering from hamstring surgery earlier today.
Leon Jones, his first point of the second half, moved from California to Battle Creek, Michigan for a senior year and still made All-State in Michigan. And to make All-State in the state of Michigan is a feat in itself. But to do it coming in as an unknown, and he knocks down both free throws. 4 points now for Leon Jones, the 6'4" senior, and it's 56-39.
Michigan is playing hard, and they're still competing.
Ballinger at the look from 15, decided to pass it up. And Gagne using that body to back down, and Hill goes out the window. Terry Anderson waves it off, and Phil Bova is blocking Tom Izzo.
Tom Izzo may have committed the charge after the play. Now, first of all, there was the flop by Young, but I believe that impacted the decision to call the second play a charge.
Terry Anderson shot a look across the floor to Coach Izzo.
Flop, position. Looks like a good call to me. Blanchard never moved. His feet were set.
We'll talk about making eye contact. Izzo and Anderson made eye contact, and Anderson looked at him as if to say there's a technical just around the corner. Roniger, the turnover before the shot.
You know, I love the defense of Timbo Gracchus. He's a superb defender. And as a walk-on, gets a big responsibility. You know, he had to play Hollis Price versus Oklahoma and Jason Gardner from Arizona, and did an excellent job against both of those players.
You know, sometimes walk-ons can be stereotyped, but Gracchus was all conference in football, basketball, and baseball in high school. Ballinger, nice reverse down low. Ballinger now with 12. And it's 58-39, Michigan State. Queen with a rare shot. A little bit too strong. Blanchard. Offensive rebound. Left-handed shot doesn't go down. Another offensive rebound. Well, you're right. Blanchard is active on the offensive glass.
He's a springy player on the offensive glass. And today I had a chance to talk to him for a few minutes. I said, take me through your mindset when you're on the offensive boards. He said, well, first of all, when Bernard has the ball, I know he's a scorer, so I try to get myself in position. Second thing I do is I watch the flight of the ball, and it helps me anticipate where it's coming off. It's a great resource, and there's Bernard coming into the game. It's a chance for Michigan to try to make a run and get this thing to single digits. That's a tall order.
Well, to get information on your favorite Big Ten team, go online at www.big10.org for all the basketball and conference news from around the Big Ten. Lavelle Blanchard, unsuccessful on the second try, but he has 16 points in the ball game. One over his average, a 15, average 17.8 last year as a sophomore. And Gagne. Jones with the steal. Trying to take it the distance with the spin with the whistle before the shot. So Marcus Taylor picks up his second, and it's a 10th team foul now on Michigan State.
A little bit of a surprise to me that Michigan, when they get into this desperation, try to get back in the game mode, seems like they ignore Chris Young in the low post. They get away from that interior-exterior offense. Young's had a quiet, solid game, 12 points. It's been very efficient, 4 out of 7 from the field. Before the game, I felt for Michigan to have any kind of a chance that Young needed between 10 and 12 shots. Now they're ignoring it.
And Leon Jones misses the double bonus, but that can't help. 18 points, ball game favoring Michigan State as they try to make it 8 in a row over the Maize and Blue. Anderson forcing his way down. Phil Bova's there to call the offensive foul. That's a tough call because it looked like the Michigan defender was moving, Tim, but Anderson definitely had his head down as Tom Izzo was right there.
Happy birthday to Tom Izzo, 47 years old, and he doesn't like the gift that he was just given there. Last 5 possessions, Michigan State has given it up 80% of the time.
Kind of pictures that speak volumes of how intense this rivalry is, looking at Coach Izzo.
You know, that's the first time I've ever sang on the air.
And you did it very well.
It'll probably be the last.
Air ball for Anderson.
See this thing right here? This is a mute button. Next time I sing, make sure you hit that.
Right. That's a deal.
Patience serves Michigan State well now. Michigan cannot make a comeback in a half-court slowdown game.
Open look for Bagrakis, and he backs it up. No, he'll take it from the baseline, and he knocks it down. Tim Bagrakis wisely took it out of the paint and knocked down the baseline jump.
Boy, look at the respect that Young has. That's a good move for him. All season long, he goes to the middle with his right hand, and now defenses are starting to be wise to that, and they're taking the middle away. That's when the drop step comes in. Notice all the attention. There's 3 defenders right there, and a 4th is out of your picture ready to come. Andreas does a nice job playing position, but if you don't double team Chris Young, he's going to keep on dribbling.
So Chris Young now with 12 points, 6 in each half. And it rims out on the 81% shooter. Earlier in the broadcast in the first half, he talked about his shooting numbers. Chris Young, the percentage-wise from the field, 3rd all-time on the Michigan list. Maceo Baston tops that list. They've missed the last 4 free throws, and Chris Young breaks that drought. So Chris Young now with 13 points. You know, it's hard to say Michigan State is leading when you look at the head coach, Tom Izzo. But it's 60-41 Spartans. Championships, the Michigan State Spartans take a 2-4 record into this game against Michigan. And talking with Tom Izzo earlier today, you know, they've been banged up, but he puts some of the blame on himself and his coaching staff.
The injuries have played a part in our season, but the injuries didn't play a part in us losing to Wisconsin at home. You know, you have a 10-point lead, you got to find a way to win. I'm looking at this more as, yeah, we've got some excuses, we've got some things that are a little different than last year, but we have to learn how to win too, you know, and that's on me. And I think we have to learn how to win close games. That's a big part of successful teams. And I'm not sure right now we've done a good enough job of that as a staff or as a team.
And as you watch the maniacal behavior and the ranting and the raving, he's trying to teach young players. Mentoring has been a big part of his program. Antonio Smith taught A.J. Granger and Andre Hudson, and Hudson taught Anna Gagne and Ballinger. And so you're looking at older players teaching younger guys. And I can tell you what, if he had J.R. and Zach Randolph, those guys would be the foundation, and they would be teaching the freshmen.
And their transition game would be much better.
Everything about them. I'm still amazed by his comment to you that if he had Randolph and Richardson, this would be his best team ever.
You go with the Mo Peets and Mateen Cleaves. The championship team or last year's team?
Last year's team.
Blanchard. He had the hot hand, but his last 2 shots now have rimmed out for Lavelle Blanchard.
See Michigan's game? It's jump shots from the perimeter. No penetration, no post game.
Another offensive rebound for Michigan State. Ballinger.
No rebounding either. You know, as I said, I think Michigan is playing hard, but they have guys that are not supposed to be featured offensively. Chris Young is a great support player, but should he be your go-to guy in offense? Lavelle Blanchard is trying to create offense for himself, but he's not a creator. He can't dribble the ball to get his own shot. They need guys to fit roles better than what they have right here, and it's going to take some time.
I was going to say, and there's no doubt that Tommy Amaker will get those players in those roles in the next year or two.
5-man recruiting class will be coming in next year. Big adjustment. Chris Young is the only big man. The Wolverines will be relying on 3 freshman guys at the power positions.
Both these coaches bringing in a big guy. Michigan actually with 2, a 6'10 and a 6'11 guy. 21-point lead, largest of the ball game. There's a reach by Avery Queen on Chris Hill.
Passing game is always a good idea last 10 minutes. Defenses are tired. They tend to reach instead of move their feet.
But Phil Bova and Tom Izzo continue to talk on the sideline. I bet you some of these officials could have some great stories to share.
Would you guess that Michigan down 21 would have more than just 6 turnovers in this game?
Yeah. Taking care of the rock. They just haven't gotten too many great shots. Michigan State now with 11 offensive rebounds. Under 6 minutes to go, and Tom Izzo will have his 4th straight victory on his birthday. Last year, beating Michigan 91-64 on his birthday in Ann Arbor.
It's going to be hard to figure out the problem, and it may be just a cramp because it was bothering him earlier in this game. Yeah, I don't think that's a sprained ankle. It's just a cramp. You got the big muscles going. Those bad boys are going to cramp up a little bit easier. Everybody talks about the fact that Michigan State only has 7 recruited players. I count Tim Bograch as a scholarship player. He does a real nice job at both ends of the court.
Well, I think that Tom Izzo is the kind of guy that he will reward him with a scholarship. I don't know that for a fact, but Marcus Taylor lets it go with 3 on the shot clock, and Lavelle Blanchard rebounds for Michigan as they trail 62-41. Avery Queen. A lot of Michigan shots in and out here tonight, especially in the second half. Queen thinks twice about that one. Big strong move by Young as Allen Iverson goes down to the deck. No whistle, no bucket either.
Notice the spacing. That's the second time that Avery Queen, who must be very tired when you're going up against a big offensive player like Chris Hill. That's his only opportunity to slow him down, is to grab and clutch.
Well, Tim, right now let's take a quick look at the Bell Tire drive of the game.
Kelvin Torbert, a little mid-range. Chris Young was going to take a charge if he went all the way, and one of America's premier athletes, Kelvin Torbert, very confident player. You had mentioned earlier that you and I had a chance to do the Sprite Slam Jam last year for ESPN, and I remember beforehand I asked Kelvin, I said, you're in the 3-point contest and the dunk. Who would you say the favorites are? And he said, well, first of all, the slam dunk favorite would be me.
I remember that.
And then he said, and the 3-point, I would say it would be me as well. So he's a very confident young man.
Anderson knocks down that 15-footer with a lot of confidence. He's in double figures with 10. Another freshman in double figures. So Izzo's had his share. Matter of fact, over the years, Michigan State's had their share of freshmen averaging in double figures.
A loss is a loss, but you wonder if Michigan, from a standpoint of confidence, would feel better losing by less than 20 points, keep it in the teens. Small goals at this point, but try to make a run and make this thing respectable. Don't give up. Don't submit.
Yeah, I don't believe in moral victories, but you're right. I mean, this takes something out of here to build on. As Michigan heads back to Chrysler Arena for 3 straight now with Wisconsin, Illinois, and Penn State.
Wow. Medical report, more important than the scouting report for Michigan State. They cannot afford to lose anyone.
Boy, Kelvin Torbert down. He looks like he's grimacing in pain. And a couple of weeks ago, the Purdue Boilermakers came in and had a chance to talk to Tom Izzo, and he talked about the fact that his Final Four team, his national championship team, a guy would go down and he wouldn't think twice about it. They'd get him off the floor because he had so much depth. He says, now a guy goes down, I'm off the bench and holding my breath. And the very next game after he told me that, Adam Wolf goes down at Penn State. Lost for the season with a freak injury as he tore his hamstring. Now Torbert limping off the floor, and again, not to be redundant, grimacing in pain.
It's like another cramp.
Well, hopefully it is just a cramp.
Michigan would like to press, try to speed this thing up, but they lack the perimeter defenders. Beautiful delivery, strong delivery.
It's going to be 4 on Bernard Robinson Jr., who just between you and me and our television audience tonight, I thought Bernard Robinson Jr. is the one guy that would have a big game against Michigan State.
He's been non-existent. Give a lot of that credit to Michigan State's defense, but once again, at shoot-around today, Tom Izzo point-blank said Bernard Robinson is the only guy that has the dribble drive ability. They know it's coming, and so you put one guy on him and have another guy or two ready to stop penetration. They took, with their defense, Bernard Robinson right out of this game.
Anderson, over his high school career, never averaged less than 13. That free throw gives him 12 for Michigan State, and there's a timeout in the Breslin Center. 3:59 to go. The Spartans that close to another victory. Back inside the Breslin Center, the U-Zone going crazy, and for good reason. 3:59 to go. It's 66-41 Michigan State. Their look around the Big Ten. Wisconsin now down in Evanston. Boy, Phil Carmody doing a good job with that Northwestern ball club, and Minnesota up in Minneapolis pounded on Ohio State last week, and they're up on Penn State 79-53.
And the marquee matchup on Saturday with Minnesota. Northwestern Ohio State. Brian Brown has really made Ohio State a dominant team, and then interior play is going to be important. Then the matchup, Indiana versus Minnesota.
Triple header on ESPN Plus. It all starts at noon Eastern. Northwestern at Ohio State, then Penn State. It goes into Carver Hawkeye Arena, and we wrap up our triple header on Saturday with the Indiana Hoosiers up in Minneapolis against the Minnesota Golden Gophers. All starts at noon with our pregame studio show Saturday from ESPN Plus.
Now, if you want to know why Michigan's deficit has gotten bigger, the last 12 minutes, they are 0 for 9 from the field. Kind of hard to make a comeback that way.
Yeah, the same kind of drought in the first half. What, 7 minutes with 1 bucket in the first half. Now it's no field goals in the last 7:53. That's 8 minutes, and they give up the rock again.
This is the dribble weave, try to create some penetration.
Oh, great creation that time by Marcus Taylor with the crossover dribble. Saw an opening and took it.
Michigan looks tired. State looks fresh. Sometimes going on the road into a hostile environment takes so much energy out of you. This is like the Harlem Globetrotters, isn't it, with that weave up top?
I played against that one time. I had a chance to play with the Washington Generals.
Really? How'd you do? Did you win?
Yeah, we didn't win. I scored. But they said when they go into the weave, don't screw it up.
Just stay out of the way.
Stay out of the way. They don't like when you screw it up. Down to 2 on the shot clock, and Marcus Taylor stripped in Michigan State's for the shot clock violation.
One of the few turnovers here in the second half.
So Michigan State in the next 2 minutes and 32 seconds will go to 3 and 4. Michigan will drop to 3 and 5. Right now, let's take a look at our best play of the game, brought to you by Advance Auto Parts. The best part is our people. Big Al and Aganya. Baseline jam, 10 points, 4 rebounds at halftime. And Aganya in the ball game, still with 10. Ingerson, deep 3, rattles in this time.
I like this lineup for the Spartans. All Big Ten point guard and a couple walk-ons and a couple freshmen.
Matt Ishbia. And Ishbia plays, actually, Michigan State has a pretty doggone good record.
They need to play him more often then.
There you go. I guess there'd be a strong correlation. Little spin move and the feed inside the Westbrook. want to say in that Iowa game when Michigan State lost to Iowa last week in Barber Hawkeye Arena, Westbrook came in and Ballinger and Anaganye both fouled out. Westbrook did a great job of denying the basketball to Reggie Evans. Marcus Taylor goes out. Taylor with 10 points in the ball game. Ten points and 5 assists for Marcus Taylor. He came in averaging about 15.6 points and 5.5 assists. Here comes Alexander, young man you talked about earlier, football player. Westbrook takes it down the lane, misses the shot.
Alexander's the backup quarterback, third stringer on the Michigan State football team. Was recruited to come out here and add some toughness. So you're going to bring some toughness. Who's the toughest guy on the Michigan State football team? Said Bobby Williams.
I mean, he has a couple of years left, and Alexander gets his first bucket as a Spartan hipster.
You know, that's a pride thing right there. Michigan cannot let a walk-on that's been playing basketball for basically 2 days of practice get an uncontested layup.
Michigan, their season low twice this year has been 47 points against San Francisco and Ohio State. Now they're stuck on 44. Tonight's Big Ten game has been brought to you by Advance Auto Parts. The best part is our people.
Yeah, I want to give credit to Tom Izzo and his staff. Their preparation was outstanding. This was a domination on the defensive end of the court. Forget the offensive numbers. They played great defense, did not allow penetration to the rim. And I think that Tom Izzo is going to look at the film and he's going to be very happy with the results.
Tom Izzo about to pick up his 160th victory as the head man at Michigan State. Final 25 seconds of the ball game here from East Lansing, Michigan. Final 2 seconds, and Matt Ishbia put the exclamation point on Tom Izzo's 47th birthday. 71-44. Tim McCormick, your final thoughts on the game?
First of all, Michigan, they came out hard. They played with pride, but they were overmatched. Michigan State does two things better than anybody else in the Big Ten on a consistent basis. That's defend and rebound, the macho parts of the game. I thought that they did a great job in the tough areas of basketball.
71-44, Al Anaganye and company with the victory. Coming up next for the Michigan Wolverines, they go back to Chrysler Arena. They take on Wisconsin. Michigan State goes on the road. They head for Champaign, Illinois. Our final score once again, Michigan State 71. Michigan 44. That's 8 straight down for Michigan State. For Tim McCormick, this is Mike Gleason saying so long. This has been a presentation of ESPN Plus, the worldwide leader in collegiate sports television. So long, everybody, from East Lansing.